Welcome back, Rare Seal. Imagine holding a small, seemingly insignificant coin between your fingers. A coin that most people would overlook without a second thought. Yet hidden within its copper-toned surface lies a story that stretches across decades of American history, economic shifts, and collector fascination. And today we are diving deep into the mysterious and highly talked about 1 cent USA 1981 coin. A piece that has sparked curiosity, rumors of extreme value, and debates among collectors worldwide, especially with claims circulating that certain versions could be worth up to $167 million, a figure so massive that it almost sounds unbelievable. Yet that is exactly what makes this coin so intriguing and worth exploring in detail. The 1981 1-cent coin, often referred to as a penny, was produced during a transitional period in United States coinage, a time when rising metal costs were forcing the U.S. Mint to rethink how coins were made. And although many people associate the major change in penny composition with 1982, the year 1981 quietly set the stage for that transformation, making coins from this year particularly interesting to collectors who understand the subtle variations and production details that can dramatically affect value. Physically, the 1981 penny carries the familiar design that had been in place for decades, featuring the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, can still be found on the coin, though not always in the same prominent placement as earlier versions, and Lincoln's profile faces to the right, accompanied by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty" to the left, and the year 1981 to the right, giving the coin a classic and instantly recognizable appearance. On the reverse side, the 1981 penny features the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat ears design, and this depiction of the memorial is incredibly detailed for such a small coin, even including a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue inside the building, something that many people never notice unless they look closely with magnification. And surrounding the memorial are the inscriptions, "United States of America," along the top edge, "E pluribus unum," above the structure, and 1 cent, boldly displayed at the bottom, reinforcing the coin's denomination. Now when it comes to the coin symbol and mint marks, the 1981 penny was produced at multiple U.S. Mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each location adds its own small but crucial detail to the coin, with Philadelphia coins typically lacking a mint mark, Denver coins displaying a small D, and San Francisco coins carrying an S, which are often proof coins specially made for collectors with a higher level of detail and finish. And these mint marks, though tiny, can significantly influence the rarity and value of the coin depending on the quantity produced and the condition in which the coin has been preserved. In terms of weight and composition, the standard 1981 penny weighs approximately 3.11 grams and is composed primarily of copper, specifically 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that had been used for many years before the eventual shift in 1982 to a mostly zinc-based coin with a thin copper plating. And this difference in composition is one of the key factors that makes pre-1982 pennies, including those from 1981, particularly appealing to collectors and even metal enthusiasts who value the intrinsic copper content. But where things start to become truly fascinating is when we move beyond the standard specifications and begin exploring the rare variations, mint errors, and unique circumstances that can elevate a simple 1-cent coin into something extraordinarily valuable. Because while the majority of 1981 pennies are worth only their face value or slightly more depending on condition, There are certain rare examples that can fetch significantly higher prices, sometimes reaching hundreds, thousands, or even more in extreme cases depending on rarity and demand. One of the most important aspects that collectors focus on is the condition of the coin, often graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to pristine uncirculated condition, and coins that have never been used in everyday transactions, retaining their original luster and sharp details, are considered far more valuable, especially if they come from limited mint runs or possess unique characteristics such as double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting errors that make them stand out from the millions of standard coins produced that year. Another factor that plays a major role in determining value is the concept of rarity, and rarity in coin collecting does not always mean old. It often means uncommon in a specific way, such as a coin produced in limited numbers, or one that survived in high-grade condition when most others did not, and in the case of the 1981 penny, certain mint marks combined with exceptional condition or rare errors can create a situation where collectors are willing to pay a premium to own a piece that very few others have. The claim of a $167 million value associated with a 1981 1-cent coin is something that deserves careful examination, because while it is true that coins can reach astonishing prices under the right circumstances, such as unique historical significance or one-of-a-kind errors, such extreme valuations are typically associated with coins that are truly singular and verified by major grading authorities. And so understanding whether such a claim is realistic requires a deeper dive into documented sales, auction records, and the specific characteristics that would justify such an extraordinary price. As we continue this journey, we will uncover the hidden layers behind this coin, from its historical background and production details to the myths and realities of its market value, exploring how collectors identify rare specimens, what makes certain coins skyrocket in price, and whether the 1981 penny could genuinely be considered a life-changing treasure, or if its legendary value is more of a myth fueled by speculation and viral claims. And by the end of this exploration, you will not only understand this coin in incredible detail, but also gain insight into the fascinating world of coin collecting itself, where even the smallest object can carry immense value under the right conditions. An insider. As we continue deeper into the story of the 1981 1-cent coin, it becomes essential to understand the broader historical and economic environment in which this coin was produced, because coins are never just metal objects, they are reflections of the time in which they were created, and by the early 1980s, the United States was facing rising inflation and increasing costs of raw materials, particularly copper, which had been the primary component of pennies for decades, and this created a serious problem for the U.S. Mint, as the cost of producing each penny was beginning to approach and even exceed its face value, an unsustainable situation that forced officials to consider major changes. In 1981, discussions were already well underway about altering the composition of the penny, and while the official transition would take place in 1982, the coins minted in 1981 represent the final full year of the traditional bronze composition, making them historically significant as one of the last chapters in a long era of copper-based coinage. And this alone gives the 1981 penny a special place in the minds of collectors who appreciate transitional periods in numismatic history where change is imminent but not yet fully realized. When examining the production numbers, or mintage figures, we begin to see just how common most 1981 pennies actually are, with billions of coins struck across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, meaning that in general circulation, these coins are extremely easy to find even today, and this is an important point because it directly challenges the idea that every 1981 penny could be worth a fortune, since true value in coin collecting almost always depends on scarcity combined with demand, not simply age or year alone. However, within these massive production numbers, there are always exceptions, And this is where things start to get interesting, because certain coins from 1981 were struck with errors or unusual characteristics that set them apart from the standard issues, and these are the coins that collectors actively search for, sometimes spending years examining rolls of pennies or purchasing collections in hopes of discovering a rare variation hidden among ordinary pieces. One such category of interest is the doubled die variety, where the design elements on the coin appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and while not extremely common for the 1981 penny, any confirmed doubled die example can significantly increase the coin's value, especially if the doubling is clearly visible on important features like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile. And these types of errors are highly prized because they are genuine mistakes from the mint that cannot be easily replicated. Another fascinating type of error is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a design that is partially missing or shifted to one side. And depending on how dramatic the misalignment is, these coins can become quite valuable, particularly if the date and mint mark are still visible, as collectors prefer errors that are both visually striking and identifiable. There are also cases of clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin appears to be cut off due to a problem with the metal blank before it was struck. And again, while these errors are not unique to 1981, finding one from this specific year in good condition can attract significant attention from collectors who specialize in mint errors, a niche but passionate segment of the numismatic community. Now shifting focus to proof coins. The 1981 penny produced at the San Francisco Mint offers another layer of interest, as these coins were not intended for general circulation, but were instead carefully struck using polished dies and planchets to create a mirror-like finish with sharp details, and proof coins are typically sold in sets to collectors, often preserved in protective packaging, which means that many of them survive in excellent condition compared to circulation coins. And while they are more common in high grades, certain proof coins with deep cameo contrast or flawless surfaces can still command higher prices in the collector market. Condition, as mentioned earlier, plays a massive role in determining value, and this is where professional grading services come into play, using detailed scales such as the Sheldon grading system, which ranges from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better preservation, and a 1981 penny graded at the very top levels, such as MS67 or higher, can be worth significantly more than an average circulated coin, even if it has no errors, simply because such pristine examples are rare due to the natural wear and tear that most coins experience over time. Now addressing the idea of extreme value, such as the widely circulated claim that a 1981 penny could be worth $167 million, it is important to approach this with a critical and informed perspective, because while the world of coin collecting has seen some truly astonishing sales, including coins that have reached into the millions, these cases are exceptionally rare and typically involve coins with unique historical significance, extremely limited mintage, or one-of-a-kind characteristics, and as of verified records, there is no widely recognized 1981 1-cent coin that has sold anywhere near that figure. That being said, the power of speculation and viral information cannot be underestimated, and stories of incredibly valuable coins often spread rapidly, inspiring people to search through their spare change in hopes of finding a hidden treasure. And while the chances of discovering a multi-million-dollar coin are extremely slim, the excitement and possibility are part of what makes coin collecting so engaging, turning an everyday activity into a kind of treasure hunt where knowledge and attention to detail can sometimes lead to surprising rewards. Collectors who are serious about identifying valuable 1981 pennies often use magnifying tools, digital scales, and reference guides to examine every aspect of a coin, from its weight and dimensions to the details of its design, looking for anything that deviates from the norm, because in this field, even the smallest difference can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth hundreds or more. And as we move forward, the story becomes even more compelling as we begin to explore real market examples, auction results, and the psychology behind why certain coins gain legendary status despite limited evidence, along with practical advice on how you can evaluate your own coins and determine whether you might be holding something truly special without even realizing it. Now we step into the most exciting part of the story, where theory meets reality, and where collectors, dealers, and everyday people try to understand what the 1981 1-cent coin is actually worth in today's market, not based on rumors or viral claims, but based on real demand, real auction results, and real-world collecting behavior that has shaped the coin market for decades. The first thing to understand is that the coin market does not operate like normal consumer markets, because value here is driven by rarity, condition, and collector demand rather than utility, and this means that even the smallest variation in a coin's characteristics can create a dramatic difference in price, especially when the coin is certified by professional grading companies that authenticate and assign a precise condition grade, giving buyers confidence in what they are purchasing. For a standard 1981 penny that has been circulated, meaning it has been used in everyday transactions, the value is usually very close to its face value of 1 cent, or in bulk quantities, slightly more when sold by weight due to copper content, but nothing close to extraordinary figures, and this is where many people are surprised, because despite online claims of millions or even hundreds of millions, the reality is that most of these coins remain extremely common and widely available. However, in the collector market, the story changes when we move into higher-grade coins, particularly those that have been preserved in mint state condition, often described as MS65 or higher, where the coin shows minimal to no signs of wear, retains strong original luster, and has sharp details across all design elements, and these coins can sometimes sell for significantly higher amounts, often ranging from a few dollars to occasionally over $100 depending on demand and scarcity within that grade level. The real excitement begins when we examine error coins from 1981, because this is where value can increase dramatically, and collectors actively hunt for these anomalies because they are unpredictable and often unique, meaning no two error coins are exactly the same, and this uniqueness is what drives competitive bidding in auctions. For example, a 1981 penny with a major double die error affecting the date or Lincoln's profile can sometimes sell for hundreds or even over $1,000 depending on the clarity of the error and the condition of the coin. And while these are not everyday finds, they are known and documented within the collecting community, making them legitimate targets for enthusiasts. Similarly, off-center strikes that are visually dramatic but still retain identifiable details can also reach higher values, particularly if the coin is well preserved and the error is significant enough to be visually striking, and collectors often prefer errors that are easily visible without needing specialized equipment, as these make for more desirable display pieces. Now let's address the claim of a $167 million valuation, because this is where misinformation often spreads rapidly online, and it is important to separate verified numismatic facts from exaggerated or fabricated claims, and based on all known auction records, number 1981 1-cent coin has ever been sold or authenticated at anything remotely close to that value, and such a figure is not supported by any recognized grading authority or major auction house. To understand why, we need to look at what kind of coins actually do reach extremely high values in the millions, and those typically include coins with unique historical origins, extremely limited survival rates, or one-of-a-kind minting errors that cannot be replicated, such as certain ancient coins, rare gold issues, or unique prototypes, and even in those cases, prices in the tens of millions are exceptionally rare and heavily documented. The 1981 penny, while interesting and collectible, does not fall into that category of extreme rarity, because billions were minted and most variations are well documented, meaning that even rare error versions exist in small but known populations, which prevents them from reaching astronomical speculative values. However, what makes this coin fascinating is not unrealistic price tags, but the accessibility of discovery, because unlike many high-value collectibles that are locked away in museums or private vaults, 1981 pennies can still be found in circulation, coin rolls, old jars, and collections, meaning that anyone with patience and attention to detail has at least a small chance of finding something interesting. Collectors often describe this process as coin hunting, where individuals sort through large quantities of coins looking for anomalies, and while most searches end in ordinary results, the occasional discovery of a rare error or high-grade specimen is what keeps the hobby alive and exciting, and this element of unpredictability is one of the strongest emotional drivers in numismatics. Another important factor in modern coin valuation is the role of online marketplaces and auction platforms, where coins are bought and sold globally, and prices can fluctuate based on trends, hype, and collector interest, sometimes leading to temporary spikes in value for certain coins when they gain attention on social media or YouTube, even if their long-term market value remains stable or modest. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC play a critical role in stabilizing this market by providing standardized evaluations, ensuring that buyers and sellers are dealing with authentic and accurately graded coins, and a coin that is slabbed and certified generally commands higher trust and therefore higher prices compared to raw, ungraded coins. When evaluating a 1981 penny in your own possession, experts recommend a careful step-by-step approach, starting with identifying the mint mark, then examining the coin for visible errors under good lighting, checking for unusual doubling or misalignment, assessing the overall condition, and finally comparing it with verified auction records to determine realistic value expectations. And as we move toward the final part of this exploration, we will bring everything together by separating myth from reality once and for all, breaking down what makes a coin genuinely valuable versus what makes it simply a viral internet claim, and giving you a clear understanding of whether your 1981 penny is just pocket change or something worth paying close attention to. At this point, we reach the final layer of understanding the 1981 1-cent USA coin, where all the history, production details, collector interest, and market realities come together, and we finally separate what is possible from what is just internet exaggeration, because in the world of coins, truth is always more interesting than hype once you understand it deeply. The first truth that needs to be clearly understood is this: the 1981 penny is not a rare coin in general circulation terms. It was produced in massive quantities, and billions of examples still exist today in jars, drawers, old collections, and everyday change. That alone immediately places it in the category of common coinage, not ultra-rare treasure. But common does not mean worthless, and this is where many people misunderstand coin collecting entirely. What actually creates value in coins like the 1981 penny is not the year itself, but the combination of three things: condition, error, and uniqueness within known populations. A normal worn coin will always remain close to face value, but a coin that survives in near-perfect condition, or one that carries a verified mint error, can step into a completely different price category. Let's talk clearly about realistic value ranges. A circulated 1981 penny is essentially worth 1 cent, sometimes slightly more in bulk copper value. A high-grade uncirculated example might reach a few dollars. A certified mint state coin in exceptional condition can sometimes reach tens, or even over $100 depending on buyer demand. And a genuine, dramatic mint error, verified and graded, can occasionally push into the hundreds or rare four-figure territory. But now comes the important correction that every collector eventually learns: there is no verified evidence, no auction record, and no professional grading confirmation that a 1981 1-cent coin has ever reached anywhere near $167 million. That number belongs to internet exaggeration, viral storytelling, and misinformation that spreads because it sounds exciting, not because it is supported by numismatic reality. To understand why such extreme numbers are unrealistic, you have to understand how the highest value coins in the world actually earn their status. The most expensive coins ever sold are typically one-of-a-kind historical pieces, ancient rarities, unique mint prototypes, or coins tied directly to major historical transitions with extremely limited survival rates. Even in those cases, prices reaching tens of millions are extremely rare and heavily documented by major auction houses. A modern copper penny from 1981 simply does not fit that category of uniqueness. It was mass-produced, widely circulated, and extensively studied by collectors for decades. This does not make it unimportant. It just means its value is grounded in realistic numismatic principles rather than fantasy figures. Now here is where the real beauty of this coin lies, and where the story becomes actually more powerful than the myth. The 1981 penny represents accessibility. It is a coin that anyone can still find. It is a coin that teaches beginners how to examine mint marks, how to identify errors, how to grade condition, and how to understand market value. It is one of the entry points into the entire world of coin collecting. Collectors often say that coins like this are not about instant wealth, but about developing an eye for detail. Because when you learn to distinguish a normal strike from a misaligned strike, or a standard surface from a high-grade luster, you are training yourself in skills that apply across the entire numismatic world. And that is the real hidden value of the 1981 penny, not a mythical $167 million price tag, but its role as a teacher coin, a gateway into a hobby where knowledge is everything and patience is rewarded in unexpected ways. So if you ever come across a 1981 1-cent coin, don't chase unrealistic internet claims. Instead, look closely. Check its condition. Examine its details. See if there are any minting anomalies. Compare it with verified references. Because while it may not turn you into a millionaire, it might still be a small piece of history sitting quietly in your hand. And in the end, that is what makes this coin truly valuable. Not fantasy numbers, but real history, real craftsmanship, and the real possibility that even the smallest object in your pocket carries a story worth understanding.